traditional Virginia peanut soup. We are putting a modern day twist on it, making it keto friendly peanut soup. That's coming up on the Last Minute Cook. Hi, I'm Deborah. You're watching the Last Minute Cook, where I share delicious recipes that are quick so that you can make dinner at the last minute and feel good about what you're serving. So if you're new here, consider subscribing and tick that little bell so you'll be notified of my new episodes. And if you like this video, let me know by clicking that thumbs up button. Okay, so we are making a traditional peanut soup, only we're going to make it keto friendly. And this recipe is a traditional recipe straight from Virginia, which we'll talk about in just a minute, but let's talk about our ingredients first. We are going to be using an onion, a little bit of butter, some chicken stock, some light cream or half and half. We're gonna be using almond flour and some celery, and of course, peanut butter. So let's get started. And regarding the peanut butter, you can use any creamy peanut butter that you like. I like a natural, like the Jif Natural. You can also make your own peanut butter by blending some salted peanuts in a mixer until it becomes creamy. What you don't want to use is a crunchy peanut butter. So however you like your peanut butter, just make sure you're choosing a creamy peanut butter. And that's the only tip for right now I've got for you on this. We are using our Instant Pot for this peanut soup to shave some of our time off and to keep us from having to stand over the stove while this boils and comes to temperature, so that we can relax and do other things while our soup does all things good inside our Instant Pot. So we are going to turn our saute feature on and let that start getting hot. Put that on, make sure you're on high. Mine's on low, so let me move that over, select high, and hit start. That's gonna take a second to heat up. While it's heating up, we're gonna chop up our celery and onion. So I've already gone ahead and pre-chopped this. I'm using yellow onion. You can use a white onion. It actually calls for a medium size. So I only used about 3/4 of this big old yellow onion right here. And I still have all this. And I chopped it nice and thin because we are gonna want to make sure our soup is nice and creamy. So it's okay to get some of these vegetable bites in there, but my goal is to have it actually just be a creamy soup. So I want to start with them nice and thin. Same thing for your celery. So get that nice and thin because celery takes a while to cook down. So we'll help it along by cutting it nice and thin. So you'll just chop the ends of your celery off, and I've pre-chopped one stalk over here, and it calls for 2 stalks of celery. Like most of our soup dishes, we're starting with a sofrito, which that is your oil or butter with your onions and your celery. Sometimes we'll use garlic, but this one's just the butter, which is 4 tablespoons. It's a half a cup, 4 tablespoons, or quarter cup of butter, your 2 stalks of celery, and your medium onion, all chopped up. So we're gonna get all this in there. I'm gonna go ahead and put the butter and our onions right on in there. And then we will add our 2 stalks of celery. So the onions and the butter and the celery just go right on in together. Super fast, super easy. So we're on our saute on high, and we just wanna stir this and cook it until the onions are cooked down a little. We don't want them to turn brown, so we're just gonna cook it just until they're cooked down a bit. It's maybe 5 minutes at the most of this. This is the longest part of this soup. First time I had peanut soup, I wasn't sure what to expect. It's a traditional recipe in Virginia, and we were visiting Colonial Williamsburg, and we were told, you've got to try this peanut soup. Well, okay, if you've got to try it, then let's try it. And we went to the King's Arm Tavern, and with the first bite of that peanut soup, I realized why it was Washington's favorite menu item at the King's Arm Tavern, this delicious peanut soup. And this is the recipe that I'm sharing with you today, with just a small twist to make it keto friendly. But this soup is delicious, served hot or ice cold. both ways. So it's a versatile soup and it's very filling. And we sure had fun trying it and kind of stepping back in time and seeing what that was like. Once your onions are cooked down, they're gonna look a little bit like this right here. And again, we don't want them to be brown. We just want them just softened up a little bit, especially to help that celery along. Then we're going to add 4 tablespoons of almond flour. So we're gonna add that right on in and we're gonna stir it up. Then we'll add everything else and get this going. So we're gonna add our 4 tablespoons. And we want to, I'm gonna actually use a whisk, I think. We wanna stir this pretty quickly and pretty briskly so that it doesn't burn. We want this to kind of thicken with that butter. Yeah, no, I'm gonna turn that off. As soon as you've blended this flour in with your vegetables, we're gonna add 8 cups. We're adding 2 quarts of chicken stock. You can use a broth. The stock's gonna have a little bit more flavor, so we're gonna have 2 of these. See a little bit of brown down there? We're gonna scrape that up before we pressurize so that we don't get that burn signal. Once we've got our 2 quarts of chicken stock added, we're just gonna feel the bottom of that pan, make sure nothing's stuck because there's gonna be a little bit there. Just kind of scrape that up. We're going high pressure on sealing, not venting. We're gonna go on to just manual pressure cook. You could also do soup broth, either one. We're gonna put that on for, let's go 8 minutes on high. And then once the time's blinking, you move it on up to 8 minutes and then enter and make sure you're on high and don't forget to hit start. All right, this will preheat for a few minutes. It shouldn't take too long to preheat since we had already got some hot ingredients in there. It's going to pressurize for 8 minutes on high, and then we will do a kind of a controlled quick release. Soup, when it's a lot of broth like this, when you do a quick release, it can really kind of out of control spew up a lot of liquid. So if that's happening, then you can kind of control your quick release. If you're not comfortable doing a controlled quick release, and if you need help with that, comment in below. Reach out to me with any questions. You can do the controlled quick release, or you can just let it natural release for about 5 or 10 minutes, and then it should be less of a spew when you release that button. So just some things to play with when you're doing a release with this much liquid. So we're gonna check back with this as soon as it's done with its 8 minutes on high. While we're waiting for our soup to pressurize, we can be getting the sippets done. What is a sippet? A sippet is a toasted piece of bread for the soup that they would dip into the soup and sip off the soup from it, and it would soften as they eat. So it's fun to serve these with this peanut soup. Super easy. You just simply slice up some bread and throw it to toast in your oven. You just want to get it about 1 inch thick so that it's nice and servable on your soup bowl. So just do a few of these, and you can cut them in half if you want them thin like I've got here, and just do a single layer of these on a cookie sheet and put them straight into your oven. Take these off, we don't want to double toast these. So just do a single layer of these. You don't need to put butter or oil because we just want them toasted and dry to be able to absorb that wonderful peanut soup. Right in about 350 for 10 to 15 minutes. Just keep an eye on them so they don't get too toasted. And that's it. This is what you're gonna serve with your soup. This you can be doing while this is heating. And then these can be served just room temperature along with the soup. We have waited our 8 minutes, and I'm gonna go ahead and do a controlled quick release. Again, for more information on that, check the show notes below. Basically just releasing a little at a time so it doesn't spew everywhere. So for this next step, we're gonna be doing some blending, and you can blend either by pouring your soup into a mixer or using a handheld stick mixer, whatever that you're comfortable with. Just remember, whatever tool you use, you're working with hot soup, so be careful. But we are going to use a blender, and I'm going to be using my stick mixer for this next. Let me see, I'll show you. This guy right here. I'm going to be using this stick mixer because I can submerge, it's an immersion mixer. I can immerse this part into the liquid, and it will blend everything for me without having to pour it into a blender. but whatever you've got, you can use. Just be careful because it's hot liquid. Now we want to blend all of this together. So, again, I'm using an immersion mixer, but you could pour this into your blender if you wanted to. Just if you're using an immersion mixer, just please make sure you keep it immersed so you don't splatter hot liquid all over yourself. Please be careful. Follow your manufacturer's instructions. Once that's nice and blended, I guess that was probably about 30 seconds or so, just slowly moving it around the bottom and giving it a chance to blend all of those yummy vegetables with that broth. Now we're going to add our peanut butter and our cream. So it's 2 cups of smooth peanut butter right into this broth. Don't let it splash you. Be careful with that. So again, about a cup and 3/4 is what it calls for. A cup and 3/4 of, it calls for light cream. I use half and half. Then I use my immersion blender here just to get it going because that peanut butter takes a while to stir in. So when you are served this peanut soup in Colonial Williamsburg, it's very thick. When you first make it, it's going to be thinner. It will thicken as it cools. If you want it to be thicker, you can add more flour, you can add more peanut butter, less broth. You can play with it to make it your own. We like it thinner. My kids like it thinner. It's more of a soup. So if you wanted to make this, the traditional recipe is the exact same one I've shared with you today, but instead of using almond flour, you would substitute regular all-purpose flour, 3 tablespoons. So this is the famous peanut soup recipe straight from King's Arm Tavern to your home. So we're going to garnish this right on top, and you serve it with a little sippet just like that. That's it. And again, serve this really warm or really cold. Both ways are absolutely delicious. This is such a great soup, the saltiness, and there is 2 cups of peanut butter in it, so you taste that, but you get the wonderful flavor from the sofrito of the celery and the onion and the broth all mixed together. So, and if you have a chance to visit Colonial Williamsburg, you'll be able to tell them you've made this straight from home. You know all about it. So, hot or cold, summer or winter, a great soup all year round. If you have a chance to make it, let me know in the comments below. If you have any questions, I'd love to hear from you. Reach out. You've been watching The Last Minute Cook. We'll see you next time. Buon appetito.